Welcome back. What an appropriate song to lead into the second segment of the show today. Rockwell's Somebody's Watching Me. Welcome back to the Patrick Ryan Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and locally on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. Leaning over and turning the headphones up a little bit. Oh, in case you haven't heard, and this has been running on some of the news breaks during the day, today is the day there's a march in Washington protesting all of the spying that's been occurring in our country and outside our country. What I wanted to mention this real quick. I don't have any audio from it since it's going on right now, but if you want to read about what's happening, you can go to their website. The website is stopwatching.us. That's stopwatching.us, not .com, but .us. So you can go head over there after the show, and it's a protest like set up in Washington, and they're talking about trying to roll back this massive NSA spying that's been going on. And it's a lot of groups from both sides of the ideological spectrum doing this. So it's nice to see everyone coming together and fighting against this. Now, speaking of spying, did you read this week where the Germans are getting a little tired of the games we've been playing over at the NSA? I've got the story right here from the UK Guardian. The National Security Agency monitored the phone conversations of 35 world leaders after being given the numbers by an official in another U.S. government department. And this is according to a classified document provided by our favorite buddy, whistleblower Edward Snowden. The confidential memo reveals that the NSA encourages senior officials in its, quote, customer departments, such as the White House and the Department of State and the Pentagon. It encourages them to share their Rolodexes so the agency can add the phone numbers of leading foreign politicians to their surveillance systems. The document notes that one unnamed U.S. official handed over 200 numbers, including those of 35 world leaders, none of whom are named in the memo. They were immediately, quote, tasked, which I guess that means put up to the front of the line, for monitoring by the NSA. You see, not even world leaders are safe from this massive spy operation. Arriving in Brussels for an EU summit, German Chancellor Angela Merkel accused the U.S. of a breach of trust. She said, quote, "We need to have trust in our allies and partners, and this must now be established once again. I repeat that spying among friends is not at all acceptable against anyone, and that goes for every citizen in Germany." The NSA memo obtained by The Guardian suggests that such surveillance was not isolated, as the agency routinely monitors the phone numbers of world leaders and even asks for the assistance of other U.S. officials to do so. So the German chancellor is stating that, quote, "spying among friends is not at all acceptable against anyone, and that goes for every citizen in Germany." But when all this NSA spying first came out, she didn't really press for any more information because it only involved German citizens, but not her. But now that it turns out her phone was being monitored as well, oh, now she's mad about it. You know, all this demonstrates is that these people are in power, or these people in power, they're the same the world over. It isn't just an American problem. It's a worldwide problem with power-mad people running these countries. This is what Edward Snowden meant when he stated that this NSA spying was destabilizing the world. All of these countries have had this cozy little relationship with the United States. They've been spying on their people, and we've been spying on their people and us. But no one was really concerned until we find out, hey, the NSA is also spying on those leaders as well. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. All over the world we see this happening. Governments are screwing over their people, and it's okay. But when these people in power get a taste of their own medicine, now they don't like it very much at all. But getting back to the story, it says, in one recent case, the recently released memo notes, a U.S. official provided NSA with 200 phone numbers to 35 world leaders, despite the fact that the majority is probably available via open source. The intelligence production centers, that's a part of the NSA, have noted 45 previously unknown phone numbers. These numbers, plus several others, again, have been tasked. The document continues by saying the new phone numbers had helped the agency discover still more new contact details to add to their monitoring. The numbers have provided lead information to other numbers that have subsequently, again, been tasked. So, sure, the phone numbers they started monitoring, of course, led to other numbers of the people calling them, or the people were calling the cell phone, or the cell phone was calling them. And then the NSA could monitor these new numbers, as well as extend that web of surveillance out even further. The public accusation of spying on Merkel adds to the mounting political tensions in Europe about the scope of U.S. surveillance on the governments of its allies, after a cascade of backlashes and apologetic phone calls with leaders across the continent over the course of the week. Asked if the NSA had in the past tracked the German Chancellor's communications, Caitlin Hayden, the White House's National Security Council spokeswoman, said, quote, "The United States is not monitoring and will not monitor the communications of Chancellor Merkel. Beyond that, I'm not in a position to comment publicly on every specific alleged intelligence activity." At the White House Daily Briefing, Jay Carney refused to answer repeated questions about whether the U.S. had spied on Merkel's calls in the past. So yes, that means we've been listening to German Chancellor Angela Merkel's cell phone calls. The only reason the Obama administration doesn't outright lie is because they're afraid of what else Mr. Snowden has to release. If the administration says, oh, we've never listened in on her phone calls, and then Edward Snowden releases another memo showing they did, well, how much damage control has to be done now? This is why I state over and over that this country will never be able to thank Mr. Snowden enough for what he's doing. There are government disciples who curse his name, who say he's a traitor. These are the people looking to excuse government's actions no matter how bad. Now, this article continues with Merkel, who, according to Reuters, suspected the surveillance after finding her mobile phone number written on a U.S. document. And she's said to have called for U.S. surveillance to be placed on a new legal footing during a phone call to President Obama. This is supposedly what she said she told the president. The German federal government, as a close ally and partner of the U.S., expects in the future a clear contractual basis for the activities or the activity of the services and their cooperation. That's what supposedly she told the president. So there you go. I just pointed this out a minute ago. Merkel isn't so mad that spying is being done on Germany. It's just that she's been included in it. Right here is the proof in this statement. I'll read again. The German government expects in the future a clear contractual basis for the activity of the services and their cooperation. Notice she doesn't say, not a cessation of the spying, not an unconditional dismantling of the program. No, if the NSA is going to continue spying on German citizens, it needs to exclude their leaders. And, oh, and by the way, let the German government get in on it as well. This is a government antagonizing their own populations. It doesn't just happen here in America. This is government out of control, and it's happening all around the world. Governments that don't see anything wrong with spying on their own citizens, watching where their money is spent, listening to who they're talking to, and reading their email. If you sit here and read a lot of these stories, you can almost feel the volatile nature of what's been happening around the world. I'm not saying anything is going to blow up here in this country or any other country, but you can tell the citizens are getting tired of this sort of thing. That's what we need to start addressing in our country. We have elections coming up next year, and if you don't run, you need to get someone who will run. Someone that you know who would be an excellent person to go to Washington and start making headway on getting all this rolled back. And more importantly, when they run, support them, get out there and get other people to vote for them. Let's get them to Washington and start reining in this out-of-control government. At least we can do something about it in our country. And if we can start reining in our government, maybe other people, citizens of their nations, will see this happening and decide, hey, we want some of that too. The half-hour break is already here this week, and wow, I've not gotten to a quarter of the stuff I brought in with me today. But when we come back after this break, we'll hit it hard and get through as much as we can here on the Patrick Riggins Show on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network.
Whatsoever